Good morning, everyone. It's Mayor Chris Jensen of America's hometown of Noblesville, Indiana. Great to be with everybody here on Monday, the 23rd of March. I would say welcome to spring, but Indiana, if you're in Indiana, can't quite decide what it's going to do. We were in summer yesterday. We're back to winter today. We'll see where we get. But most importantly, we're here with a great conversation around mental health on another edition of Mental Health Monday. Joining me today, as usual, my partner in crime in this operation is a good friend of mine, Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. Excited for our conversation today.
I am beyond excited for our conversation today because we have another special guest. We are just killing it in the special guest department this spring, by the way. But this one's pretty superior, and it's a great friend of ours, Jen Wiese, who owns BeeFree and is also just an all-around really great human being, which we like to associate ourselves with really great human beings. So, Jen, thank you for joining us today.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for the warm welcome.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
And a beautiful home office she's working from there with some BeeFree products over her shoulders. She just knows the marketing game. She knows all about what she's doing, which I'm so excited to dive into her story a little bit. I think it'll be one that a lot of people can relate to. And I would say I love, Kristen, I don't know how you feel about, but people like herself actually included that turn their passion just into vision and they're going to do something about it. And Jen Wiese is just the definition of that. So I'm pumped to have this conversation. We're going to dive in a little bit to the mental health conversation around our special needs community, which is a huge passion of ours here in Noblesville, and then also even beyond that, but on the caretaker community and what that involves, which is a huge, again, a continued growing need that we're trying to address every single day. But before we do any of that conversation, we're going to make sure that we are level set and our breath is taking us where we need to be. So before I get ahead of myself and get too excited, Kristen, would you walk us through a little square breathing exercise?
Absolutely. So if you're feeling stressed today, maybe you have the blahs because you're looking out the window and you're like, the weather, you're kind of wanting spring to stick.
Maybe your bracket is busted.
Maybe your bracket's busted. Maybe you're stressed out over the NCAA tournament, whatever that looks like for you. Breathing can help reset your nervous system because the nervous system is the gateway to healing. It's a path to healing. And the breath can help us settle that nervous system when it feels anxious, overwhelmed, stressed, and dysregulated. So we're going to really work with our breath today with square breathing. We're going to take 2 breaths together. We inhale through our nose for 4, we hold for 4, and then we slowly release out our mouths for 8 seconds, like you're cooling soup or cooling a cookie. I recommend doing this every hour. People are like, what? And I'm like, yes, we've got to regulate the nervous system. And then when you feel activated or triggered, guess what? Your brain goes, oh, you need to breathe. And this works because my teens now do this and it pays off to do it consistently. So we're going to put our feet on the floor. We're going to ground into our feet. Inhale through our nose. Hold and slow exhale out our mouths. You'll notice we really took our time on that exhale. We want the exhale to be longer than the inhale. So the longer you can let that breath out, the more you're going to feel it in your body. So let's do one more big deep inhale. And let it go. Okay, just kind of checking in before and after, just noticing the difference before you started. And I'd recommend keep going beyond the 2 breaths so you can really get the maximum benefit.
Yep, and it's something that I do all the time, even in the car. I said that's a great spot to do this exercise. I said I actually needed this morning. Kristen Boice had to switch to a new gym this morning, and day one back at it was the mile benchmark run. So I'm still a little triggered from that this morning. So I needed that centering after getting through that this morning. So thank you for that exercise. Before we get started too, I want to make sure anyone who's watching knows you're welcome to chime in on the chat. You can say good morning, you can say hello, or you can ask questions. If we don't know the answers, we'll find people who do. But welcome your participation here. This is being done to support our community, not just Noblesville, not just Indiana, but we know we have some worldwide watchers, which we love to hear from. So feel free to chime in. But I want to pitch this right over to Jen and kind of put you on the spot for a minute and tell us a little bit. Before you tell us about your business, I will say you are a mother of 4 boys, so sainthood is already placed upon you. which is great. So you're already starting from a place of that. But I want you to kind of talk a little bit about your journey, where you are today, and how you got to where you are today, and kind of what drives you. So I'll let you spend a few minutes telling your story.
Well, thank you. And I always appreciate a little head start. So a little head start in sainthood, I'll take that.
Yes.
Um, Raising a family of four boys, they're grown men now. So they're ages 25 to 30. But back in the early days, busy household, lots going on. And we were noticing some differences with our oldest son. And through that came a diagnosis of autism. And so as my husband and I are looking at how do we navigate this world, this family, give everybody the best shot at life that they need, we leaned into diet, specifically real food, looking at food as our medicine. And we learned about gluten free and how that could be super impactful. Not a cure, of course, by any means. I'm very quick to say this is not a cure. This is a support mechanism that we found to be very, very helpful for our family, for our son specifically. So we leaned in on that. And that was back in 2008 when there were no gluten-free menus. There were no gluten-free sections in the grocery store. Access to gluten-free food was very, very limited, but we found success early on. So we dove in and we accepted it as a way of our life. And what came from that early experience was we realized that there were a lot of other families, a lot of other people that were looking for the same thing that we had. And I already had a little bit of a jump start. I enlisted my mom. She was my number one cheerleader, but she was also, my help and my coach in the kitchen. So we created favorite family recipes to gluten-free and to real ingredients and had some really great success. And so in 2010, I made it a business and just started knocking on doors. And a few years later, my husband left his career as a new car dealer. He saw that I had something that I'd started that could be scaled and could help a lot more people than just in Hamilton County. So we've been on that march as a family business since 2014, and now we're a national brand. You can find our products all over the country in airports and groceries all over. And but the biggest thing that really the heartbeat of BeeFree is we have a nonprofit called BeeFree Bakes that runs in tandem with BeeFree, and that is our job training program. It's called Warriors at Work, and it was created to help fill a need. We've got a front row seat to some of the challenges that are surrounding young adults with disabilities. We say autism, specifically because that's our frame of reference. But for young adults with all kinds of disabilities, there's some big hurdles and some things to overcome. So we try to break it down and offer a solution for young adults to gain some job skills in a loving, warm, accepting, uplifting environment so that they're job ready and they can leave our program and walk right into a job.
Kristen, isn't that such a parent thing to do? I want to say mother thing, but it really is a parent thing to do where, like, if the option's not there, you go find it. You find it for your kid. And Jen has done it, and I think you guys had that aha moment of like, okay, this isn't just going to benefit our son. This can benefit a global group of people who, think about how far we've come. And you know this better than anyone on the autism conversation in the past decade or decade and a half. I mean, the understanding is so much greater. The acceptance is so much greater. To your point, of the trainability is so much greater, and that's just incredible work that you do. And I've been able to speak at all the Warriors at Work graduations. We have host them here at City Hall, which is awesome. And not only do you see the pride in those young adults as they achieve something, but their parents, just the pride. And it's not just their parents. Usually it's like the whole fledged grandma, grandpa, cousin, everyone's there because they're just celebrating this success. And so just kudos to what you have done in that space. It's just incredible.
Well, it takes a village, and certainly, I mean, I don't say that lightly because you know this very well. You both know this very well. It takes a village to raise children into really good citizens that can contribute and feel really proud of the impact they're making in their community.
Kristen, do you want to take it from there and kind of talk about that contribution and what that can do internally for whether it be the warrior at work who's getting certified to do the work, but also again that parent, that caretaker, that sibling that is seeing the success of these young adults.
Thank you for the work you're doing. This is making a huge difference. There's not a lot of programs for folks that are looking for how do you train someone up in the workforce. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the impact you're having in this community and in the world because it matters, especially to this community where oftentimes there's a lot of shame. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm different, I don't belong. And that's a struggle not only for the individual with it, but also the family that wants their child to feel loved and like they belong and they matter. And that's what I see a program like what you're creating and what you created, offering those folks, because everybody wants to feel like we matter and we're important and we're smart and we're worthy and lovable and can be successful. And I think that's what a program like that creates, and for the family system. Can you talk a little bit about that?
About the family system,
Yeah.
yes,
And how
absolutely.
that is impacted, and then how this program has helped kind of working through shame and not feeling good enough.
Absolutely. So, I'm speaking from a point of reference that's near and dear to my heart. But every parent of a child with a disability, their biggest question or their biggest fear is, what will happen to my child when I'm gone? And so, providing workplace, not only independence that a paycheck, provides, but a support system, a friendship, a network of people that outside of their family, can support them and build them up. It's massive, and so when you take away some of that fear from a parent, that the other siblings feel as well too, it's huge. You can't put a price on that. It's really just it's very impactful.
For sure. I think that is, I'm glad you said that because that is, there's lots of fear, not only for the person with the disability, but also the family system and questioning how are they going to make it? How are they going to create, make a living for themselves and be on their own and be independent? How did you come up with this concept? Like, how did you build the idea and what have you seen as the impact?
Well, we built the system just based on what we saw, what we were seeing from our son and from other young adults with disabilities. So that's where we've really tried to just be good listeners and fill in the holes, where we could. So also because we have a warehouse location right here in Noblesville that serves as a perfect training ground, so that's part of why that piece was put in there. And then also involving other corporate partners, like our corporate partner with Costco and Meyer and Kroger, and letting them feel the impact and the joy of serving people who might otherwise be at home sitting on a sofa because no one gave them a chance. So it's partially internal for BeeFree because our trainees are actually doing work, real life work in a real working warehouse that matters, that has very high standards and expectations. So everything we do, we try to replicate a real life working situation. So they're getting practice while they're actually doing the work. Um, so
I want to touch on because you mentioned Meyer or Costco and Kroger and the incredible corporate partners, by the way, who've stepped up to support this mission, which I really, really appreciate. I remember going into the grand opening of Costco in Noblesville, which was a big day in this community. And there's Jen Wiese right there with her product in Costco, which was incredible and such I'm sure for you, Jen, kind of a surreal moment in life, right? But talk a little bit about that. From my perspective as a mayor, this is a workforce opportunity. We are challenged all the time with barriers to workforce reentry, and whether it be, so it's great to see companies step up that take on the training here, and we see it all the time. But it's a workforce challenge for us that we're helping to overcome. Can you talk a little bit about how you've worked with some of those corporations to overcome those barriers when it comes to the training programs that you're seeing?
absolutely. A big part of that is relationships, right? So I started BeeFree 16 years ago. So for 16 years, I've been building relationships, with these partners. And it doesn't have, don't get, I mean, hear me, that it doesn't have to be like a big corporate partner, little, big, little, anywhere in between. We're looking for people who employ people to step up, to raise their hand and say, okay, I think I can do this thing, right? It might look scary, but I think, I want to take a chance and I want to be part of this community. I want to support people who need a hand up. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is breaking down those barriers. So, if I can be that source of hope, source of information and support to an employer that wants to hire somebody with a disability. Well, I mean, that just makes things easier, right? It's just like this conversation we're having right now with friends. It makes it easier, and it makes it not quite so scary. So it also is one other thing too. The reason we created our lemonade trailer, which we put out in the communities when it gets a little warmer. But one of the reasons we did that was because we wanted our community to have a front row seat at what it looks like to be served by somebody with a disability. And when you get that experience, it's really it's like wildfire, right? So you feel it and you want to be part of that solution. I mean, that's the intent. So hopefully we're hearing a lot of that from our community, that they really feel empowered to do something, right? So that's the whole idea. So I think it's just supporting people, giving them a reason, and breaking down those barriers so it's not scary, and it's a little more trying to break the barriers and make it more normal that people of all abilities are included in all of our life here in Hamilton County and Noblesville.
I think that's a keyword, inclusion, because I feel like anybody with autism or a disability or a diagnosis of any kind, they feel on the outside, they feel separate, they feel different. And when can you talk a little bit about that, and in the workforce, what do you see?
Oh yeah, I mean, and a big part of it is it's fear. You touched on fear already, but it is fear so much. Excuse me, it's fear so much that it sometimes is crippling. Like they get so in their head that a certain situation is going to be fearful and terrible and just like they might die, right? I mean, that's how intense some of the fear is for new unknown situations for people with disabilities entering a workforce. So what we do, because we've seen that for years with our own son, but with lots of others, we've seen it. And so we just break things down into little bite-sized pieces. And we have a super supportive staff. Our trainees are highly skilled. They're so compassionate. And they're just like people you just want to be around because they're uplifting and empowering, and they're not judgmental. And I think that's a big part of it is we break it down into we create a super warm, welcoming environment. And we even invite them, our new trainees, their first week or however long they want, they can bring a family member, they can bring a friend, a job coach, anybody that makes them feel supported and safe and secure. So just some little things that we do like that. And then we just have extra people on hand, so we have one-on-one with our trainees as they enter our program. And we do a lot of repetitions.
Mhm.
And we have lots of visual cues, auditory cues, pictures, color coded. We really try to break things down so that we can meet most of our trainees wherever they are. And then we're just able to see this massive growth, and celebrate them all along the way.
I love that. I mean, that just your training in and of itself shows the depth of understanding you have in the needs and how to meet those needs and create a felt sense of safety in the nervous system and with them to be able to kind of do the day-to-day activities
Yeah.
and give them
And you know what?
confidence.
And I'm not a trained professional in the mental health space or, a lot of other spaces. I'm just a mom. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a mom who has had 30 years of being a mom, and you really just putting just it all goes back to a promise I made when my son was born, that I would do the best I could to be the best mom I could to give him the best life possible. So I really try to, everything I do, especially on the hard days, because let's be real, they're not all rainbows and puppy dogs, right? Um, is just to try to remember that promise that I made to him, and then also be the voice for all those who don't have a voice. I'm very, very well aware that there are a lot of folks out there with disabilities and not, that don't have a support system.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I took on that charge a long time ago, that I would be the voice for those who didn't have a voice.
uh, Again, I think the fact that you come at it from just a mom perspective is just incredible too. I think that's such a disarming thing for a lot of people too, which is awesome. Can Kristen, you want to talk a little bit about, what if there's a parent that maybe has a son or daughter that has unique needs, and I'm sure there's so many emotions that go through their head every single day. But can you talk a little bit about how like they might approach a conversation around this, or what they're thinking, or how to kind of get over those barriers for them as parents or caretakers wanting to support these young adults?
One is you're not alone. So it can feel isolating as a parent. It can feel like we've done something wrong. Is there anything we could do better? We have a lot of self doubt and a lot of fear. And so it's important that you have an outlet for that. You have friends that you can talk to, you have a therapist, you have a support group. Now there's many available, which is wonderful. And I'm so grateful for that because it can feel very lonely. Even though we've come a long way with autism diagnosis and disability diagnosis, it doesn't negate that it still feels lonely, and there's still a lot of fear associated with that. And you're learning a new way to parent. You have to meet them where they are, and working on your own triggers, working on your own shame. Like if they do something and you're triggered by that, it's important as a parent that you're offering yourself compassion and grace and nurturing. You used all those words with your training. I was like, yes. And you learn visuals, auditory needs, sensory needs are really, anxiety is really high. It's important to understand that with any kind of a disability or autism diagnosis. Typically, it's not always. And depression can come as well, because often they might be getting bullied at school. They might feel so different than everybody, and they're coming home. Maybe they're shutting down. Maybe they're not talking to you. Maybe they're getting into other ways to cope, like video games. Maybe they have hyperfixations. They have different interests that they might really fixate on, and really honoring who they are is an important part of the parenting process, and nurturing yourself, because there's a lot that goes into it. IEPs, meeting with the school, really helping them, equip them with a support system and resources that will help them navigate just the culture we live in. And I think, do you want to speak to that, Jen? What you did as a parent to really nurture yourself and navigate this?
Yeah, I mean, there is no easy answer. There really isn't. And what worked for me, won't be effective, for other people. But I think just drawing awareness to um, there is a need. You got to take care of yourself first, and always holding on to hope. It sounds kind of cheesy, but really just holding on to hope and building yourself up, building others around you, supporting. Let me say that again. Having a support system around you that builds you up. It was really powerful for me, and it was really impactful. And when there are so many things in the world around your child with a disability that says no, they can't do this, they won't do that, lower your expectations. We fought those at every single mention. So I was the mom that really just fought. I was an advocate. I fought for everything for my child, because I could see that ceiling being lowered. And every time a ceiling got lowered for my child, he busted through it every single time. And so that was my confirmation that says, nope, don't put a ceiling on top of him. He's going to put his own ceiling. And when he does that, we're going to try to see if we can raise it, because we believe in him so much, and we want him to be the best he can be. But so I think some of those things, just focusing on what the strengths are and what the natural abilities are, is really important. And really just kind of shifting your mindset to the things that are possible and the things that are naturally good and occurring in your life, I think can be helpful.
I want to ask a question. First, I want to give a shout out to Isa Garcia, who made a comment, and mom of two special needs students here in Noblesville. So kudos to you. We see you. We hear you. Thanks for tuning in today. I want to ask, one of the part of this program has always been kind of asking hard questions and sitting in them a little bit. So I want to ask kind of for both of you, if I'm a resident of Noblesville or whoever, and you come upon a situation where maybe one of the warriors at works is working behind a counter somewhere, and maybe that's a different interaction for that person. They're not, um, that may not be something they normally are engaged with, and I think so. Just logically, I'm trying to break down this barrier here of like how would you coach the layperson to interact maybe with one of your warriors at works, knowing that they have unique needs and that they, I just want to be very blunt in that conversation to coach everyone to be better, and how we're interacting every day, and admit that it may not be comfortable for everybody. Right. I mean, that's my inner Kristen Boice coming out here of like, that's okay. That may not be a totally comfortable situation for you, but can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah, I'll
I
start.
know that's a loaded question there, but I feel like it's important to address.
I think it's important too, so thank you for asking. So I think like just be friendly, right? And and see somebody for who they are, right? So if often sometimes conversation can be very difficult for people, right? On both sides. Like, so it's not just one sided, on both sides, it can be very uncomfortable. And so a smile goes a long way, right? A nod of the head goes a long way too. So, just trying to be engaging, right? Like you would anybody else, treat them like they're a real person because they are. And just, try to be engaging to the best of your ability. I think that's the biggest thing. Just try.
Mhm.
Don't just walk away because you're terrified. Oh my gosh, what if I say something wrong or I offend them or you do something that, you know, I don't know what that would be, but I just think being open and the more conversations we have like this in our community and the more people who are willing to see people of differences, the better we're all going to be. But just try. I think that's my message.
Kristen, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and I think one of the things social anxiety is big for so many people. It takes a lot of courage to work a job, put yourself out there, interact with people. It's scary. People are afraid of rejection and judgment and being mean to them, right? There's like I don't, unkindness. And I think one of the things is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Watch your facial expressions because if I'm like you can see that doesn't create a felt sense of safety. It feels like judgment and criticism. Open your heart center, really come with, can I love people well? Can I open my heart up and love this person in front of me, no matter who it is? But if it's someone in particular, can you love them well with a softness in your voice and how you're approaching them? Because tone of voice makes a huge difference. They're very sensitive. Like if you're going to come with an intensive energy or an angry, try to ground yourself, take a breath, soften your face, soften your shoulders, open yourself up with tenderness, kindness, and compassion and empathy. And if we learn this to do with ourselves, we're going to change the world one person at a time. I know I sound cheesy, but I really am passionate about it because that's what everybody wants. They want somebody to see them, understand them, and have patience.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we struggle with, all of us at some point in time, is patience. Take a deep breath, take a breath and breathe so you can be patient. I think that's the other piece that's so important.
Yeah, and I'll end on a point too to say, especially, I have 4 young kids. You guys know that. I mean, they're not super young. They're younger than yours, and I try to focus a lot on making sure I model that behavior because there's a lot of young eyes on that are watching their parents and how their parents may interact with somebody who's different than them. So I always try to be very careful about that, knowing that there are young eyes watching how we interact. And to your point, Jen, we see do it to the best of your ability. If we can all just show up to the best of our ability, and not be afraid to ask questions, or we're always very hypersensitive, right, about offending others. And if you come from a good place, that's not going to ever be offensive. You know what I mean? You'll learn from it. You can learn from that experience. So,
And a compliment goes a long way. If you see a compliment,
Yeah.
compliment them.
Yeah.
Oh, I just so enjoyed our interaction today. It was so lovely to meet you. You're doing such a good job. I'm telling you, little things like noticing people and giving them a specific compliment goes a long, long way. Build someone up.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, just on behalf of the entire community, Jen Wiese, thank you for what you do every day, to go to work and to put on your cape that you wear every day and be the superhero that you are. I just admire you so much. So thank you.
Well, it's my greatest joy. So thank you.
Yeah. And Kristen Boice, again, we know that if anyone's struggling right now, where do they turn if they're having struggles, mental health, or they're with someone who might be needing mental health support? Where do they go?
988, text, call, dial at any time. Trained clinicians are on the other line. You don't have to walk through this life alone. You can get support. There's tons of support resources also on the City of Noblesville website. Go there. Most of them are free at some level. So 988 doesn't cost you a dime. If you don't know how to walk through something with someone else, you can dial it, you can text it with them in the room or them with you.
Yeah. And I will just say, March is Disabilities Awareness Month as well. So this is a perfect time to have this conversation. I know Reese Bowen on our team have been working really hard with the Council on Disabilities that we have here in Noblesville to put on a great program. They had a bingo last week, I believe, or trivia that they were doing last week. So again, we're going to continue this conversation. We want Noblesville to be a place for all. And making sure that we're supporting everyone in their journey. But again, Jen Wiese, you're amazing. Thank you for what you do. Kristen Boice, you're always great. You are so appreciated. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and we'll see you back here next month for another edition of Mental Health Monday. And everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Jen, so much. Thanks, Mayor Jensen.
Thank you.
Thank you.